What's up, everybody? Renfail here, and we have some more Starfield news. I just wrapped up the Q&A that took place over in Bethesda's Discord with some of the Starfield lead developers, talking about all things related to the upcoming game. It also went gold today, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen, which means tomorrow I get to start preloading on my Series X, which I'm really excited about. I've got Premium Edition pre-ordered, ready to go. We're going to be starting a few days early with everyone else and getting right into this amazing new RPG from Bethesda Studios. But without further ado, let's go take a look at some of the highlights from the Q&A session, some of the things that I found to be newsworthy, and there's lots of different stuff. So if I missed something or if there's something else that I didn't cover that you'd like to see, don't forget to drop it in the comments below and we'll get to it as we have time. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And let's jump right into the Q&A, everybody. So, I have never quite seen a Q&A done this way in Discord, so this is very interesting to watch this take place. So, they've set up some chat channels here in the Constellation section of Bethesda's Discord. I know some people are doing this live. I'm recording this and I'm cutting it into pieces after the fact. It says, welcome Emil and Will. Will, the lead question designer, and Emil, lead designer, are here to answer questions about Starfield. Thanks to everyone who asked their questions last week. While we won't be able to answer all of them today, we hope you will enjoy hearing a little bit more about the world of Starfield. Please feel free to chat here throughout the event. Questions will be locked for chatter until the answers are posted so everyone gets a chance to see them. Then we will open up chat in each post if you want to chat about the answers or ask follow-ups. Um, so yeah, I guess this is going to be a text-based Q&A. I was thinking it was going to be a video thing, but hey, learn something new every day, everybody. It doesn't matter. I'm excited. The game went gold today. Preloading on my Xbox should happen tomorrow. We've got our early access head start ready to go. I've got August 31st blocked out the next few days. We'll still be doing Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm going to be doing a lot of Starfield those first few days to take advantage of being in there a little bit early. I'm not worried about review copies. I know some people are going to be getting the game even earlier than that. That's okay. My channel is still growing. I didn't feel the need to worry about trying to get my hands on a review copy. I just ponied up and paid, and happy to do so to support games that I love. So without further ado, let's get into the first question here and go throughout this Q&A with all of you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, everybody. All right, question one. Can we buy houses or property in main cities? Will Shin says yes, there's housing in different cities that the player can get. Some you have to purchase, and some are rewards for specific quests. That's really cool. I think the next question I have on top of that, which obviously we're not going to get answered here because this is the weird format they're doing, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of questions, would be can you have more than one house? Like, can you have a house here, have a house there, have a house there, have an outpost over here, an outpost over here? Like, is there a limitation on how many are you going to be able to have? Are you going to have fast travel between them? Are you going to have some sort of an easy way to remember? Because if you've had like 10 different apartments, how do you know and keep track of them all? Is there a housing tab? Like, there's a lot of follow-up questions I have to that, but that's cool to know that we can have houses or property in the main cities. And it looks like there's a follow-up from Emil which says you sure can. You can purchase a dwelling in all the major cities in the game, and there's at least one that you get specifically for completing something. They don't say what. Very interesting. Question number two. If we get the kids stuff trait, will our parents be generated based on our character's look, or there are standard parents put in place? What benefits might there be? Will Shin said, our programmers on our new face tech were excited to make a function that could try to match your custom face and then create the two parents. So they are based on what your character looks like, although the specific math involved is a bit beyond me. We had similar tech in our previous games. Emil says, totally, just as we did in Fallout 3 with your dad and in Fallout 4 with your son. In Starfield, if you take the kid stuff trait, your parents are based off you. No spoilers, but I think our fans will really appreciate the actors we got to play those roles, and they got so into it. It's awesome. And oh yeah, you can get stuff. That's a concise answer on that one. Question number three. For those of us who have never played a Bethesda Game Studios game and will be starting with Starfield, what information do we know now that will make the experience more impactful right from the start? How deep should we go into creating our character's backstory before we start the game? Emil says, well, and he's typing a further answer as I'm sitting here recording this, so let's see what he has to say. He says, we always make our games for both fans old and new, so you can jump in without ever having played a Bethesda title before. While you do start you off in the same spot, what happened to you before the game starts is totally up to you and your head canon. But we like to look at it less as playing a game and more about living in the universe we created. So settle in, go at your own pace, and pretty soon you'll learn all the systems and be adventuring through the settled systems the way you choose. And Will says there is a trait and background system that will let you specify more about yourself, but you can also select an anonymous background and no traits if you want. That's interesting. I didn't know that that was even going to be an option. So that's something new that I wasn't aware of. Cool. So you can go anonymous. That's really groovy. All right, and it looks like they're doing some follow-up answers here. In terms of if you've never played a BGS game before, try anything where it's simulation as well as a role-playing game, so we try to support the player doing what they want as much as we can. As for going into a character's backstory, that's entirely up to you. I'm all about that headcanon, says Emil. For example, my last character is a working schlub named Mitch Dombrowski. He's husky, good-natured, he's a space trucker, and while he'll do whatever he needs to defend himself, he'll never shoot first. He's like Han Solo's sweeter older brother, and yes, there are traits and backgrounds that support that kind of thing. Moving on to question 4, how will the smuggling cargo system work? Can we hide it somewhere on the ship and sell it for more currency later? Will says certain items are considered contraband and you'll need to smuggle them past security ships that are in orbit of major settlements. Emil says there are specific items that are considered contraband, meaning they're pretty much illegal everywhere, and yes, you can hide them using special ship modules you could purchase. So, don't get caught with those harvested organs. The economy is fixed, but the prices of bought and sold goods can change based on the skills you choose. That's worthwhile because it's not, it doesn't fluctuate like an MMO. That's cool because I'm planning on playing a smuggler of some type, so you can definitely expect to see me having those types of modules on my ship. Question number 5. Will there be a jail system if we committed crimes? Will's typing, so we'll wait for him to say. But I'm assuming yes, because on previous games, you could totally get thrown in jail. Like, I remember Morrowind getting busted multiple times trying to steal stuff. Will says yes, you can elect to go to jail or pay a fine when you're arrested, or even resist arrest and try to escape. That's a staple in Bethesda games. We've seen that in lots of other games, so I would expect nothing less here. He says the settled system is more like Skyrim than Fallout 4's Commonwealth in that regard. Excuse me. You bunch of criminals. You bunch of criminals. I butchered that pronunciation. Emil's got a follow-up he's typing here. Let's see what he says here. But I did get caught in Morrowind a bunch of times just because I was learning the game. So there's civilization, there's government, and there are laws. And in a couple of cases, we actually explore the themes of crime and punishment in our futuristic universe. Oh, yeah. Sounds good to me. Question 6. Will time pass when not in the game? For example, will my trade routes, outposts, and mining operations continue to produce, or does that only occur while actively playing? Emil says the sim only runs when you're actively playing, so there's no sleeping on the job. So when Will also says that only while actively. So this isn't EVE Online, everybody. This is just a single player RPG that you log into. Doesn't have an online component. There's no sort of tracking in the background. It's just whenever you log in, the game is being played at that point in time. So I mean, I feel like that was kind of a weak question, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's a traditional single player game. Time does not advance in pretty much every single player game like it does in, say, an online persistent game. That's a little bit different here. Question number 7. Can you be a double agent in the game? For example, if you join the United Colonies, can you also join the Crimson Fleet and give the United Colonies information? And on that note, what factions have that feature if they do? Will Shen says all of the playable factions can be completed independently which is a lot like their Elder Scrolls games anyway. You could do the Thieves Guild, you could do the Mage Guild, you could do the Fighters Guild. Emil says that's exactly what you can do. Infiltrate the Crimson Fleet for the UC SysDef. It's specific to that quest line. So just like what we've seen in previous Elder Scrolls games. Crimson Fleet storyline does feature you being an undercover agent inside the fleet on behalf of UC SysDef. Spoiler alert! A specific military branch of the United Colonies, which we saw in the timeline the other day. But whether you betray the fleet or the UC SysDef is a choice you get to make. Emil says, in the studio, I have been half jokingly accused of referencing movies that some folks have never seen because I'm old. So this particular plot line, the inspiration was very much the movie Donnie Brasco, which is the true story of an FBI agent who infiltrates the mafia. How far will you go? It's a good question. Question 8. Depending on traits selected during character creation, will it be at all possible to play through the game in a pacifist mode without killing anyone or even potential anything? Will Shin says, I can't guarantee every mission can be completed in pacifist mode, but we do have a couple of systems that will help. We talked about this very early on during pre-production, whether or not we would fully support a non-lethal playthrough. We realized that for various reasons that wasn't totally feasible. Our system is our speech challenge game, where you can persuade someone to do something like not fight you. That being said, there are some good non-lethal options, whether through dialogue or by using a non-lethal weapon. Those could be used in certain situations, honestly a lot of situations, though I wouldn't comfortably say you can complete the entire game without killing whatsoever. That's a very interesting way of looking at things. The settled systems is mostly civilized, but it can be a dangerous place if you're going off the beaten path, and you are absolutely going off the beaten path. Finish what you were typing, Will. unless he saw that Emil answered his question already. No, he's still typing. Hang on a second. Let's see what he says here. I'm trying, as I'm recording this, I'm trying to wait until I've seen them, populate this with a couple of answers so that I'm not waiting in between, because that's less editing on my end. The speech challenge game is added in specific scripted moments, and we will try to add one in most quests where important characters confront you. So I'd say just like we're seeing in Baldur's Gate 3, there will be lots of conversation options to avoid combat if you have your speech stuff up high enough to be able to make the persuasion check, whatever the dialogue check is going to be. That's cool. That's really cool because I don't necessarily care about being a pacifist, but I do love to find non-combat solutions to things if I can negotiate or, convince someone to let me go as opposed to needing to, pull out the blasters and pew pew them down. Um, not against it, but hey. Meanwhile, on to question 9. What are the beliefs and basic history of the religions we can join, such as the Sanctum Universum, the Enlightened Great Serpent? Emil says, okay, so this one, ... and he's taking his time typing it, which is really cool. It's just, we'll give a short answer. Yeah. I would assume there's going to be a big answer coming from Emil on this one. So, I would say, we've seen some pretty good lore in the Elder Scrolls games and the Fallout games in terms of ideologies being expressed by certain groups. I would say we can expect to see similar things here in Starfield. But let's see what they answer. Email is taking a while to type, so this is going to be a longer answer. It says existing in real life religions are part of the Starfield universe with folks of all religions and denominations out there, but we don't really focus on them. Instead, we highlight 3 new ones specific to the game, which I'm assuming are the ones they just talked about: Sanctum Universum, Enlightened, and the Great Serpent. And do you want to join them is another good question for a lot of people, I think. I don't tend to join any sort of religious organizations in game. It says that the Sanctum Universum is only a couple decades old in our timeline, but has gained a lot of prominence. So 20 years old is a very, very new religion. It's like Scientology when it first got started. Sorry, guys, something in my eye there. It says they believe that God is out there somewhere in the universe, that humanity's ability to travel the stars brings us closer to God. Meanwhile, the Sanctum Universum, the members called Universals, believe that God very much exists somewhere in the universe. There's a higher power that's guiding us all. Specifically, they believe that humanity's ability to travel the universe and grav jump is God's way of saying, I'm out there, come and find me. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Will says the Enlightened are an atheist group that focus on humanitarian and community work. I'll probably end if I have to join an organization, I'll join the Enlightened. That's who I am in real life. So morality is not the express territory of religion, everybody. The enlightened believe that life and is something every person has to take responsibility for. So if we want the world to be a better place, we have to do it ourselves. Emil carries on with the enlightened and says these folk are essentially organized atheists. They don't believe in any kind of higher power. Rather, they teach that human beings have to take care of each other, and they practice what they preach through various community outreach programs. That sounds pretty cool, actually. Oh, there's more. This has been their biggest answer yet. So in the game, you're not really sure what the complete truth is, but dot dot dot. So the gossip among the guards is this. A colony ship sets off for a new world, making grav jumps along the way. After one of the grav jumps, one of the passengers claims he spent that time communing with a celestial entity known as the Great Serpent. What was a few seconds for everyone else was a lot longer for him, and he brought back a mandate, which is basically get on board or be devoured when the Great Serpent encircles the universe. Is it true? I ain't saying. And that just goes to show you good lore, everybody. I mean, from a storytelling perspective, being able to create really, believable religions in a game is akin to having really good politics written in a game, because you need a plot line that makes sense. It says in the game here, you sometimes face off against House Varun Zealots as an enemy group, and that's their motivation. Pretty sure we saw in I think Starfield Direct, we saw them talking about one of the characters had a specific background that they were able to use to avoid a confrontation in space with the Great Serpent cultists. Um, so that's really good to know. Says I recently got the House Room logo tattooed on my wrist, so yeah, I dig them. That's funny. I don't know that I'd go so far as to get it in-game religion tattooed on my wrist, but hey, to each their own. Question 10. How many companions total will we be able to recruit? Will says there are over 20 named characters who can join your crew. Emil says the same, but we're really focused on the members of Constellation. Will says 4 of them are from Constellation, have the most story and interaction with the player, but all of the named characters have their own backgrounds and can follow you around and carry your stuff. Good, because my smugglers are traditionally not focused on strength and being pack mules, so I definitely need somebody to carry stuff around for me. Emil goes on to say, when we first began Starfield pre-production, we looked back at our previous games and realized how popular and effective companions were, so they were a big priority for us, and we really wanted to tie them directly to the main quest. There are some really big moments with them specifically, which I'm happy to hear, because one of the big things about Baldur's Gate 3 that we love, which they've carried over from Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, is how amazing the companions are and the storylines you have and the romances and everything else. So this is very, very, very good news. Emil goes on to say, I should also mention that our companion voice cast is amazing. We haven't released the list yet, but you can be sure there are a lot of talented actors bringing these characters to life. The same for Constellation in general. Well, considering the voice acting they've gotten in the past, I have no doubt that I'm going to be extremely pleased with the voice acting in this game. Going on to question 11. When we assign crew members to work at outposts, do we have to pay them salaries? Emil says, nope, you just pay them once. We actually experimented with paying them regular salaries, but ultimately decided to just have the one upfront cost. And I can tell you right there, that is Game Dev 101. Make things simple if you can. It doesn't need to be complex. Some things that are time sinks are not fun. They don't need to be there. You can take them out. It's going to depend on each game developer what those things might be, but that's interesting to hear. Excuse me. Will continues and says one-time payment that you can use the speech challenge game to negotiate past. Some traits also affect the cost. Emil says there's a lot to do in Starfield, and we wanted to minimize what the player had to constantly keep track of. That's what I was just talking about in terms of time sinks. Sometimes in game dev, you got to get rid of the ideas. Not everything that is on paper translates over into what you're going to be doing in the game. That's just 101. Will our companions be able to level up their perks is question number 12. Will their perks stack with ours? This is a great question. Will says all crews start with a set of perks at specific ranks. They don't level up, but they come at different ranks depending on the companion. So you might meet a character that's especially good at rifles and you hire them to watch your back, or you might meet an astrodynamics expert that will increase your grab jump range when assigned to your ship. Well, we call them skills in Starfield, and they do stack with yours when relevant. That's good to know. Very, very, very good to know. Some are there for flavor to highlight the companions' backgrounds and interests, but you'll really feel the benefit of the ship and combat related ones. Getting a boost to your shields or seeing your companion laying down fire with a weapon they're proficient in are pretty sweet moments. I agree. That sounds pretty awesome. I love the idea that they can stack, but it is going to be situational. So that's interesting to see what are the prerequisites for the stacking component of the skills. Huh. Will's got a follow up answer. What's he typing here? I'm trying to think because, like in Baldur's Gate 3, everybody's got different proficiencies and they don't stack. So, your skill at survival is not going to stack with someone else's skill for survival. Um, Interesting way of looking at things. What's up, everybody? Quick commercial break here to give it a shout out to our guild champions, who are the highest tier memberships here on YouTube. Ancient Entity, Assassin Gamer 94, Bubalonia Rising, Crazy's Relative, Mujin, and Remedy. Thanks so much for the highest tier membership. And thanks to all of the members who support the channel, because you keep me doing this full time. You too can become a supporter if you're new here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Join as a member. There's 3 different tiers. We do lots of special stuff, private polls, private videos. You get a shout out if you're the highest tier membership, but you can also do one-off donations in the form of super chats on any live stream or premiere you see, and of course super thanks on any upload or YouTube short. Whatever you can contribute, it's great. Keeps me on the air full time, keeps the cats fed, keeps the homestead running. Anyway, back to the video, everybody. Question 13. What are your favorite parts of the game? Emil says shipping it. But seriously, folks. I mean, yeah, they've been working on it for a long time. They're ready to get it out the door. Um, Continuing on that note, Will says, I love finding content that I haven't seen yet or forgot about. Our games are so big that no one person is likely to have seen it all, even after all our passes and levels of review. Emil says, because of my position, my experience is a little different than yours. I won't speak for Will, but personally, I've seen every quest line, every city, every major piece of content in the game at every stage of development, so my answer is colored by that. Especially on a project of this size and scope when you have to be reviewing thousands of different lines of dialogue and hundreds of quests. I don't know how many quests are in the game, but all that has to pass review. And if you're deep in the thick of it, it's like being the author of a book. Your line editor was only going to see it X amount of times, but you're going to have looked at it 500 times more. He goes on to say, for me, the real pleasure is seeing how they've all evolved into the persons they are today, the versions everyone here will play. I have a real soft spot for Neon. Getting that city nailed down took a lot of work by a lot of different people, and the result is really the cyberpunk settlement I always hoped it would be. That's really cool to hear. Everyone's going to have their little chunk of things that they think is their favorite. He said, I also love all the quest lines. I think they're the best we've ever done. The designers on this project totally killed it. Some of that is hype, but there's nothing wrong with being hyped about the projects that you're working on because that's why you're working on them because you're super excited to be working on these things. This is Will says, our quests really evolve over development. It's great to see how everyone adds to them designers, animators, voice actors, lighting, everything. It's just the layers upon layers upon layers that happen during game dev. So that's a good answer. I think this is one of my favorite questions so far. Question number 14. What movies or books had a big influence on some of the quests? Will says, I'm a history nerd, so I actually listen to a lot of podcasts like Hardcore History and the History of Rome. Emil says, I'm a child of the 70s, early 80s, and have very fond memories of the sci-fi of that time, so let me think. Well, our game is science fiction, Will says. I like how historians can tell you how human beings react to extreme circumstances like war, famine, and technological breakthroughs, and you can imagine how we'd react to similar circumstances in a fictional setting. Go back to the timeline we talked about the other day. It reflects real-world war. Emil says Star Wars, OG Battlestar Galactica, Space 1999, Buck Rogers, Battle Beyond the Stars, Ice Pirates, and let's not forget the classic that is Battlestorm, the destruction of Jared Sin, but also much headier stuff like the writings of Arthur C. Clarke and Robert Heinlein, or films like Contact, Interstellar, Space Odyssey, and even Event Horizon, which is a horror film that's amazing. In all those examples, you realize that outer space is 2 things, a source of mystery and wonder, sometimes terror, and 2, a giant blank page in which you can write any story, and we have written a lot of very different stories in Starfield. Really cool stuff here. Um, Question 15. What are some of the favorite small details in Starfield to add to the immersion? Emil says, I think what I really love is that although humans living in space, our aesthetic is very much NASA punk, this is a very lived in universe and you can see it everywhere. Will says, I look really closely at all of our outfits. You can see seams, materials, even especially in the spacesuits. Constellation members have patches on their spacesuits and they're tied to what skills they have. Emil then says, everyone loves the sandwiches, but it's the books that are lying around, the notes on bulletin boards, the environmental storytelling that our level designers and world artists are so good at. And I agree, because books that you can read and pages that you can pick up are one of my favorite things to do from a lore perspective, especially because I like to do voiceovers. When we're doing those in live streams, it's a lot of fun. He also says, we'll also say we'll have buttons. There's a lot of buttons. I'm assuming they mean like buttons that you can pin on your flare, for those of you who know what flare is from a certain movie that we all love from our childhood. Emil says, I'm a slow typer and somewhat typo obsessed. I'm not. I just type. I make typos, then I autocorrect later. I also use voice to text a lot, so that tends to, I have to edit that a lot because it's not perfect. It says, totally love the work from our voice actors too, and the music and sound effects and clothes. Lots and lots of different details. Details make the world. I've complained in past games about how people play so much based on the compass these days that they just blast through levels. They don't pay attention to all the small little details that they're talking about right here, that you put into a game that hundreds, if not thousands, of people have worked on over the course of hundreds, if not thousands of hours of development time and polish passes. Because there might be little things like that little book in the corner that only one out of every 5,500 players clicks on, but it's there and it adds a layer of realism to everything that's going on. The cobwebs in the corner that you might not see at first glance because you're running through, but your peripheral vision takes in that there's spider webs and dust and things in that corner, which make the area that you're in look old. And if it didn't have any of that, you would definitely, your eye would pick up on it. So the little details are very, very, very important for environmental storytelling. My brother and I have talked about this a lot in the games we've worked on, where even though it might be out of the player's immediate sight, it's got to be there so that if they turn to the left or turn to the right, they can see that thing that was kind of behind the corner when they were walking up. And if they look as they pass the corner, it's over there and they can go, oh, okay, because it adds realism to the game. And that's very, very, very important. Um, it says, I also want to mention, if you haven't heard about it, Adam Savage and team are building a filming model of the frontier. I actually saw this pop up on YouTube today, but I have not yet watched it because it's a future piece of content. So make sure to stick around, because that video that they're referring to over there, I'm going to be covering in an upcoming Starfield video here on my channel. So make sure to talk about it. That ship, all the ships, the level of detail is insane. Absolutely. It's going to be awesome, everybody. It's going to be awesome. Ooh, this covers one of the animated shorts they did in the anthology series. What's the history of the Mechs? For question 16. Emil says, ooh, the Mechs, good one. So we showed this a bit in one of the animated shorts. The Mechs are leftovers from the Colony Wars. Note it's Colony War and not Colony Wars, singular. Okay, so it's one war, not multiple wars. Okay, so I think he might have mistyped that a little bit. Both sides, United Colonies and Freestar Collective, had mechs, but the Freestar Collective really mastered them. The United Colonies had mechs too, but they also relied on the controlled alien beasts from their Xeno Warfare Division. That's an interesting concept, Xeno Warfare Division, controlling alien beasts. Says both of these were outlawed with the armistice that ended the Colony War. I wonder if we're going to be able to read the armistice in game, or if that's something that's only mentioned in like the history of the game world, so that we just kind of know it from like the timeline they posted or the animated shorts. I'm assuming we'll learn more about the armistice in game, but I really want to be able to read more about it so that I can understand exactly what was in that contract if I can. I don't know if we will be able to read that or not, but I know a lot of people have focused on the mechs as a storytelling point in Starfield's history, and want to know more. So I wonder how much of this is going to be in the game in terms of things that you can, like the books and things that you can pick up to tell you more. I'm assuming they will, because I don't think I've ever played a Bethesda game where they didn't have just tons of lore about all the other things in the game to just sort of fill the gaps. It says, I'm not really saying there's an old mech battleground in the game. I'm typing it. So there's an old mech battleground we're going to be able to find somewhere in the game on one of the planets. That's really cool. I wonder if it's going to be Earth, because we've seen the ruins of like the St. Louis Arch, and I wonder if that's going to be something where you'll be able to go in and see the remnants of that on planet Earth. I don't know. I don't know. Well, there you have it, everyone. That is the edited version of the Q&A that took place today over on Bethesda's Discord for Starfield. I'm super excited for this. I got some really cool answers for a few things. A lot of it was lore related, which I'm completely content with because I'm a lore junkie and I love all things related to history and lore as an author and storyteller myself. So I'm very satisfied with this. I cannot wait. Preloads are happening tomorrow. It's gone gold. We're got Head Start access with the Xbox. I cannot wait to start playing this, streaming it, and doing content around it. So hopefully I'll see everybody on the 31st because I do have Head Start access, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Join the Discord. Links are down below. Check out all the other playlists because we're doing Baldur's Gate 3 and film reviews and podcasts and movies and TV shows and everything else. I'll see everybody in the next video. Until then, stay safe. Happy gaming, everyone.